Hi, it's Laurie again with another how-to showing you how I make these figures on my cabooses move, the lantern waving, etc. This is a Aspen Models figure, the switcher, and I've modified him at the moment. So I've cut his head off. So there's his head there. You can see I've added some styrene underneath there. So where I've put a razor saw through to cut his head off, I've just added some more styrene on there and just used some super glue. I use lots of this Loctite super glue gel. Find that works perfectly for nearly all my needs for super gluing. So the figure's head. So I want his head turning so that he's looking towards the right hand side, this side here. I want him to look that way. So his head will be looking that way. So he's looking up at the engineer. So as he's waving his lantern, and there's his arm there at the moment. Now I've also added more styrene on that, so when he waves his lantern, the engineer can see that the air's down to the caboose. It's all the way through the train, so they're right to go. He signals him to go. So what I've done now, I've used some Tichy Trains phosphor bronze 12.5 thou. That's, again, I use a lot of Tichy Trains items. They're very good. So we've got the figure, and we've got this going into his arm. I've got the camera in front of me. I'm nearly always doing it with the camera in front of me. Okay, so now we've got his arm there. But we've got to get that up in there tight and line that up. And I've put some, either side of that there, the gap, I've put some lead pencil, soft lead pencil to lubricate it. When I paint him with the grey coat on his coat. And I've just got it, once he's in there, that's how he's going to be turning his lantern up and down. Now while I've got that, I've drilled up his arm. So we've got one drill up here. You can see that's coming out of there, the drill coming out of there now. I've gone that way, and I've gone this way, up his arm as well. So I've gone two ways. So I've gone through his elbow and come up into there. So they'll come up into the back, and then I've drilled another hole for feeding the wires through down here. So the wires will run down through his elbow and out his arm onto the lantern. So we're using some very fine wire, and I'll solder the surface mount lead and make a hand lantern. On his other arm, I'm still got to shape this. I didn't like the shape of it there, so I want him hanging onto the handrail. I'm making a caboose at the moment, and so I want his arm, when he sits in here, I want his arm resting on the railing here as he's waving. Now this wire that I've got there, I'll drill a hole through there, and you'll hardly see that little bit of black wire. It's chemically blackened, going into the motor, and that'll be working little Z bend in there, and that'll be working his arm backwards and forwards with one of those little tiny motors that I use. Here's the other thing. I've drilled all the way up his leg, and I've got a little hole that comes out here, and I've made a slot just there, so that a little bit of movement that he's got in his arm, I've got to let that bit of wire be able to move with his arm. You won't see this part of his body because he's up against the wall of the caboose, so the wire will come up his leg, out his back, into his arm, and then out onto the surface mount lead. Pretty simple really, and I can cover all of that with some putty afterwards when he gets painted. Okay, I'll just put his head on there now, so you can see that he's looking up towards the engineer when he'll be standing on the caboose, so we'll be looking up towards the engineer. I've just soldered a 0402 surface mount lead, and the wires, I've run the wires up, and when you're running them, bring them up from his hand up to the elbow, and then from the elbow up the other way. I'll turn this over. You can see where it's going up his hand, and then it's got to come out the back. So you can see the loops in it there, and once we get that up there, we can feed it in through the hole I've made in his leg, and the other one in his back there. And around the surface mount lead, I've put 3/64 clear heat shrink tube to make the glass for the hand lantern. That's still on. I just got the lead tester on it there at the moment, so we can turn that on or off. So I've just got to put a fuel tank and a little lid on that, and then the two wires will make the handle for the lamp that you'll be swinging. That's the tricky part there, is just getting it through his arm. So it's not as if you've got to use a corner drill. You just go straight one way and then straight the other way, and we just fill that cavity in his elbow up with a bit of putty. There's the wires run through there now, and I've just got to get the linkage to get him to wave his lantern. So that becomes the little geared motor that'll be inside. So this wire that's here through his arm is going to go through the wall of the caboose, and then inside I've just got a motor turning around with the crank wheel going up and down, that's just going to turn this up and down to make his arm move. So that's how I do them. I mean, that's so much more fun having a working conductor on a caboose. Could have got to put the trucks, pickups on the trucks, and the decoder, lighting decoder inside. Just thought that's how it goes. That's a San Juan car company caboose, by the way.